The sharp antiseptic smell of hospital disinfectant burned my nostrils as I drifted in and out of consciousness. Beeping monitors created a symphony of urgency around me, each sound piercing through the fog in my brain. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy, like they'd been weighted down with lead. When I finally managed to force them open, the fluorescent lights above stabbed at my retinas, making me wince. "She's awake," someone whispered. I tried to speak, but found my throat parched and raw, as if I'd swallowed sandpaper. A straw touched my cracked lips, and I gratefully sipped the cool water that soothed the burning sensation. "Easy, Ms. Reed. Small sips," a nurse cautioned, her voice gentle but firm. Memory came back in fragmented flashes. The convenience store, the man in the expensive charcoal suit, the glint of metal, the explosion of sound, the searing pain that tore through my shoulder. I tried to move, but a fresh wave of agony immobilized me. "Try not to move. You've been shot. The bullet went clean through your shoulder, but you lost a lot of blood." Shot. The word echoed in my mind, surreal and disorienting. Me, Eliza Reed, 32-year-old single mother and night shift waitress, shot? It seemed impossible, like something from a movie, not my ordinary, struggling life. "My daughter," I croaked, panic suddenly gripping me like a vice. "Emma, your daughter is fine," the nurse assured me, checking the IV drip attached to my arm. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, is looking after her. She's been calling regularly to check on you." Relief washed over me, momentarily dulling the pain. Emma was safe. My 7-year-old little girl, the only brightness in my exhausting life, was okay. Nothing else mattered. "The police will want to speak with you when you're feeling better," the nurse added, making notes on her tablet. "And there are some men waiting outside. They've been here since you were brought in yesterday." Yesterday? I'd been unconscious for an entire day. Emma must be terrified. "What men?" I asked, confused. "I'm not sure. They won't say much, just that they work for Mr. Castellano." The name meant nothing to me. I closed my eyes, trying to piece together what had happened. I'd been working a double shift at the diner because Maggie had called in sick again. My feet had been killing me as I'd walked to the convenience store on the corner to grab milk for Emma's breakfast before heading home. The store had been empty except for the cashier, a teenager named Tyler, who always gave Emma free candy when we came in together. Then the bell above the door had chimed, and he'd entered, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Dark hair swept back from aristocratic features. Even exhausted as I'd been, I'd noticed how he moved with lethal grace, like a predator in human form. His eyes had swept over the store, cataloging everything with cold precision before landing on me. For a heartbeat, I'd felt stripped bare, like he could see every struggle, every vulnerability. I'd quickly looked away, unsettled by his intensity. Men like him didn't exist in my world of discount groceries and past due notices. He'd belonged to a different universe entirely, one of wealth and power that I could only glimpse through the windows of passing luxury cars. Then everything had happened at once. The door had burst open. Another man had rushed in, face contorted with rage, a gun in his shaking hand. He'd screamed something unintelligible, aiming directly at the suited stranger who stood frozen in the snack aisle. I still don't know why I did it. Perhaps it was maternal instinct, the same impulse that would make me jump in front of a car to save Emma. Perhaps it was simply human reflex, but when I saw the gunman's finger tightening on the trigger, I'd lunged forward without thinking, shoving the suited man aside with all my strength. The gunshot had been deafening in the small space. The impact had knocked me backward, and I'd felt a curious burning sensation spread through my shoulder before the pain had hit, white-hot and blinding. I'd fallen, my head cracking against the edge of a display case. The last thing I remembered was staring up at the fluorescent lights, while someone shouted frantically for an ambulance. A light knock on the hospital room door interrupted my thoughts. The nurse hesitated before opening it, revealing a mountain of a man in a black suit, who filled the door frame completely. His face was expressionless, but his eyes constantly scanned the room, taking in every detail. "Mr. Castellano would like to see her," he said, his voice surprisingly soft for someone his size. The nurse frowned. "She's just woken up. She needs rest. It's important." There was no aggression in his tone, yet the words carried unmistakable authority. Before the nurse could respond, a second man appeared behind the first. He was leaner but no less intimidating, with a scar running from the corner of his left eye down to his jawline. "It will only take a moment," he added, equally firm. The nurse looked at me uncertainly. "Ms. Reed?" I didn't know what was happening, but curiosity overrode my fear. "It's okay," I said, wincing as I tried to sit up straighter. "I'll see him." The first man nodded and stepped aside, and he entered the room, the suited stranger from the convenience store. Except he looked different now, still impeccably dressed in what was clearly a fresh suit, but his composure seemed affected. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. There were shadows under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept, and when his gaze locked with mine, I saw something unexpected. Relief. He dismissed the nurse with a slight nod, and she left reluctantly, shooting me a concerned look as she closed the door behind her. The two suited men remained outside, visible through the small window in the door. "Ms. Reed," he said, his voice low and melodic with the barest hint of an accent I couldn't place. "I'm Gabriel Castellano." He pulled a chair closer to my bed and sat down with fluid grace, never taking his eyes off me. Up close, I could see flecks of amber in his dark irises and smell the subtle, expensive cologne that seemed to cling to him. Something about his presence made the hospital room feel smaller, as if he absorbed all the oxygen. "How are you feeling?" he asked, studying me with unnerving intensity. "Like I've been shot," I replied, immediately regretting my sarcasm. This man radiated authority, and antagonizing him seemed unwise, though I couldn't explain why I felt that way. To my surprise, his lips curved into a slight smile. "Fair enough." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Do you know who I am, Ms. Reed?" I shook my head. Should I? Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps even pleasure. "No," he said after a moment. "I suppose you shouldn't." He hesitated, then added, "But you should know that I'm the man whose life you saved." "I wouldn't go that far," I murmured, uncomfortable with his intensity. "I just reacted." "You took a bullet meant for me," he stated flatly. "That's not something I take lightly." There was something in his tone that made me uneasy, something beyond gratitude. I shifted slightly and winced as pain lanced through my shoulder. Gabriel's expression tightened. "Are they giving you enough for the pain?" "It's manageable," I lied. In truth, it felt like someone had driven a hot poker through my flesh, but I was used to enduring discomfort. Life as a single mother working 2 jobs had taught me to push through pain, exhaustion, and hunger. His eyes narrowed, as if he could sense my dishonesty. Without looking away from me, he pressed a button to call the nurse. When she appeared, he spoke without turning. "She needs more pain medication. Sir, we have a schedule for now." The single word wasn't loud, but it sliced through the air like a blade. The nurse hesitated, then nodded and disappeared. "You didn't have to do that," I said, unnerved by his command over a complete stranger. "I did." His tone brooked no argument. He studied me for a long moment before asking, "Why did you do it?" "Do what?" "Push me out of the way. Take a bullet for a stranger." His brow furrowed. "You have a child waiting at home. Why risk your life?" I blinked, surprised that he knew about Emma. "How did you—" "I make it my business to know things, Ms. Reed," he interrupted smoothly, "especially about people who interest me." A chill ran down my spine despite the warmth of the hospital room. I'd interested a man who had men in suits standing guard outside my door, a man who could make nurses jump with a single word. This couldn't be good. "So why?" he persisted, leaning closer. "Why save me?" I swallowed hard, trying to ignore how his proximity made my heart race. "I told you I just reacted. I saw someone in danger and I couldn't just watch." I looked down at my hands, pale against the starched hospital sheets. "Maybe it was stupid." "It was," he agreed, surprising me with his bluntness. "Brave, but incredibly stupid." The nurse returned with additional medication, adding it to my IV drip with a nervous glance at Gabriel. Almost immediately, a pleasant warmth began spreading through me, dulling the sharp edges of pain. "Better?" Gabriel asked, watching me closely. I nodded, feeling slightly lightheaded as the medication took effect. "Good." He straightened in his chair. "Now, Ms. Reed." "Eliza," I interrupted, emboldened by the painkillers. "If you know so much about me, you might as well use my name." A smile touched his lips again, this one reaching his eyes. "Eliza," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "I need you to understand something. The man who shot you wasn't a random criminal. He was sent to kill me. The casual way he delivered this bombshell made me wonder if I'd misheard." "What? Why would someone want to—" "That's not important right now," he cut me off. "What matters is that you've unintentionally involved yourself in something dangerous. The man who shot you works for someone who won't be pleased that I'm still alive. Fear began to seep through the painkiller haze. Are you saying I'm in danger now? What about my daughter? That's exactly what I'm saying. His expression was grave. These people don't leave loose ends, and now you're a witness. My breath caught in my throat. Emma, I whispered, panic rising. I need to get to Emma. I tried to sit up, only to be gently but firmly pushed back by Gabriel's hand on my uninjured shoulder. His touch sent an unexpected jolt through me that had nothing to do with pain. Your daughter is safe, he assured me. I've had men watching your apartment and her school since yesterday. No one will get near her. The casual revelation that he had men watching my child should have terrified me, but instead, it provoked a confused mix of relief and indignation. You had no right. I had every right, he countered, his voice suddenly hard. You saved my life, Eliza. That creates a debt, and I always pay my debts. More importantly, your current situation is a direct result of your involvement with me. That makes your safety, and your daughter's, my responsibility. The medication was making it difficult to think clearly. This stranger was telling me that both Emma and I were in danger, because I'd pushed him out of the way of a bullet, and that he'd taken it upon himself to protect us. It was absurd, like something from a movie. Who are you? I asked, studying his perfect suit, the confident set of his shoulders, the way his presence filled the room. Really? Gabriel considered me for a long moment, as if weighing how much to reveal. I'm a businessman with certain enemies, he finally said, choosing his words carefully. Enemies who would have been very happy if that bullet had found its intended target. There was something he wasn't telling me, something important. Even through the medication fog, I could sense it. And now these enemies might come after me and my daughter? My voice cracked slightly. Emma was everything to me. The reason I worked double shifts. The reason I kept going when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me. The thought of her in danger made me physically ill. They might, Gabriel acknowledged, which is why arrangements are being made. Arrangements? I echoed, not liking the sound of that. He leaned forward again, his eyes holding mine. You'll be moved to a private facility where you can recover safely. Your daughter will join you there. You'll both be protected until I resolve this situation. It wasn't a request or a suggestion. It was a statement of fact, delivered with absolute certainty that it would happen exactly as he described. No, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. I can't just disappear with Emma. I have a job. 2 jobs, actually. Bills to pay. Rent due next week. Emma has school. All taken care of, Gabriel interrupted smoothly. Your employers have been informed you've had a family emergency. Your bills are being handled. Emma's school has been told she'll be absent due to the same family emergency. I stared at him, speechless. The casual way he dismissed the scaffolding of my entire life was breathtaking in its arrogance. You can't just take over my life like this, I protested. Gabriel's expression softened slightly. I understand this is overwhelming, Eliza, but I need you to trust me when I say this is necessary. The men who want me dead aren't the type to show mercy to a single mother and her child. If they find you, they will kill you both without hesitation. The stark brutality of his words cut through the medication haze, leaving me cold with fear. How long? I whispered. Until it's safe, he replied, unhelpfully vague. A few weeks, perhaps. No longer than necessary, I promise you. A few weeks away from our tiny apartment, from my jobs, from Emma's friends and school. It seemed impossible, yet the alternative, putting Emma at risk, was unthinkable. Why are you doing this? I asked, searching his face for answers. You don't know me. You could have just disappeared, left me here. Something shifted in Gabriel's gaze, a darkness that hadn't been there before. As I said, I pay my debts. You saved my life at great personal risk. He paused, then added more quietly, and I protect what's mine. The possessive statement should have angered me, but instead it sent an inexplicable shiver down my spine. This man I'd met only yesterday somehow considered me his responsibility, perhaps even his possession, simply because I'd pushed him out of the way of a bullet. I'm not yours, I said, needing to establish that boundary despite the fog clouding my thoughts. Gabriel smiled, a predator's smile that didn't reach his eyes. You became mine the moment you stepped between me and that bullet, Eliza Reed. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for both of us. Before I could formulate a response, the door opened, and the mountain of a man from earlier stepped inside. Sir, he said respectfully, the arrangements are complete. The transport is ready whenever you give the word. Gabriel nodded, then turned back to me. Rest now. When you wake up, you'll be somewhere safe." He stood, adjusting his immaculate suit jacket. "I'll bring Emma to you myself. You have my word that no harm will come to her. Despite everything, the danger, his high-handed approach, the fear coursing through me, I believed him on that point. Whatever else Gabriel Castellano might be, he would protect my daughter." As he turned to leave, I caught his sleeve weakly. "Wait, you never really told me who you are." He looked down at my hand on his expensive suit, then back to my face, his expression unreadable. "You'll find out soon enough." He hesitated, then leaned down, his lips close to my ear as he whispered, "But know this, Eliza Reed. You've unwittingly saved the life of a very dangerous man, and now that man owes you everything." As he straightened up and walked away, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. What had I gotten Emma and myself into? And more importantly, who exactly was Gabriel Castellano? The medication pulled me under before I could find answers, dragging me into darkness as a single thought echoed in my mind. I'd saved a stranger's life, but in doing so, I might have endangered my own, and my daughter's, forever. I woke to the sound of Emma's laughter, bright and musical, pulling me from a dreamless sleep. For one disorienting moment, I thought we were home, that everything, the shooting, the hospital, Gabriel Castellano, had been a nightmare my exhausted mind had concocted. Then the pain in my shoulder throbbed, sharp and insistent, and reality crashed back. I opened my eyes to unfamiliar surroundings. Gone was the sterile hospital room with its harsh lighting and antiseptic smell. Instead, I lay in an enormous bed with silken sheets and a plush comforter that seemed to cradle my battered body. The room around me was elegant and spacious, with cream-colored walls, tasteful artwork, and French doors that opened onto what appeared to be a private balcony. Sunshine streamed through sheer curtains, bathing everything in warm golden light. "Mommy," Emma's voice came again, followed by the pattering of small feet. She appeared in the doorway, her curly brown hair bouncing as she ran toward me, her face alight with excitement. "You're finally awake." She climbed carefully onto the bed, mindful of my injury in that heartbreakingly considerate way she had, always trying to be grown up for me. I reached out with my good arm, pulling her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Relief crashed over me in a wave so intense it brought tears to my eyes. "I missed you so much, baby," I whispered into her hair, unwilling to let go despite the pain that flared in my shoulder. "I missed you too." She pulled back just enough to study my face with serious blue eyes so like her father's. "Mr. Gabriel said you were hurt saving someone, like a superhero." Her expression brightened. "Are you a superhero now, Mommy?" I managed a weak smile. "Not quite, sweetheart. Just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or the right place at the wrong time, depending on how you looked at it. Speaking of Mr. Gabriel, where exactly are we?" Emma bounced slightly on the bed, excitement overriding her usual caution. "It's a huge house, like a castle, with gardens and a swimming pool and a kitchen bigger than our whole apartment." She leaned in conspiratorially. "And Mr. Gabriel says I can use the pool whenever I want, as long as Lucia is watching." "Lucia? She takes care of me when you're sleeping." Emma's small face grew serious. "I was scared when you didn't wake up yesterday, but Mr. Gabriel said the medicine makes you sleep so you can heal faster." "Yesterday? How long had I been unconscious?" "Emma, how did we get here? What happened after the hospital?" Before she could answer, a soft knock came at the door, and a middle-aged woman with a kind face and silver-streaked dark hair entered, carrying a tray. She wore simple but expensive-looking black slacks and a cream blouse, with a silver pendant at her throat. "Ah, you're awake, Ms. Reed. Excellent." Her accent was similar to Gabriel's, subtle but present. Mediterranean, perhaps? "Emma, what did I say about letting your mother rest?" "But she woke up on her own," Emma protested, a hint of stubbornness in her voice that I recognized all too well. The woman's stern expression softened. "So she did. Still, it's time for your lesson with Dr. Harlow." When Emma's face fell, she added, "And perhaps afterward, if your mother is feeling up to it, you can show her the gardens." Emma brightened immediately. "Can I, Mommy? The gardens are so pretty with fountains and everything." I nodded, still trying to process the situation. "Of course, sweetheart. I'd love that." With a squeal of delight, Emma hugged me gently, then slid off the bed. "I'll be super good for Dr. Harlow so we can finish early." She darted out of the room with the boundless energy of childhood. "Dr. Harlow?" I asked, once she'd gone. "A tutor," the woman explained, setting the tray down on a nearby table. Mr. Castellano arranged for Emma's schooling to continue during your stay. She moved efficiently around the room, adjusting curtains and checking the pitcher of water on the nightstand. I'm Lucia Moretti, the housekeeper. I've been looking after your daughter since you arrived. How long has it been? I asked, struggling to sit up. Since the hospital? Lucia moved to help me, placing pillows behind my back with practiced ease. 3 days. The doctor gave you sedatives to help with the pain during transport. You've been drifting in and out of consciousness since then. She poured a glass of water from the pitcher. Emma has been very brave, though naturally concerned for her mother. I accepted the water gratefully, taking small sips as I tried to make sense of everything. Where exactly are we, Ms. Moretti? Please, call me Lucia. She smiled, the expression warming her serious face. You're at Mr. Castellano's estate outside the city. It's very private, very secure. She gestured to the tray she'd brought. I've prepared a light breakfast. You need to rebuild your strength. The tray held a bowl of fresh fruit, yogurt, toast, and a pot of what smelled like excellent coffee. My stomach growled audibly, reminding me how long it had been since I'd eaten. Thank you, I said sincerely, for the food and for looking after Emma. Lucia's expression softened. Emma is a delightful child, very well-mannered. You've done an excellent job with her, especially, she trailed off, seemingly uncomfortable. Especially as a single mother, I finished for her, used to that particular awkward pause. She inclined her head slightly. I meant no offense. None taken. It's just reality. I reached for a piece of toast, suddenly ravenous. Is Mr. Castellano here? I'd like to speak with him. He's attending to business in the city today, but will return this evening. Lucia moved toward the door. He asked to be informed immediately when you were properly awake. I'll let him know. After she left, I ate slowly, savoring the simple but perfectly prepared food while I took stock of my situation. I'd been moved from the hospital to what was apparently Gabriel Castellano's private estate while unconscious. Emma had been brought here as well, and seemed to be thriving, excited even about our new surroundings. A private tutor had been arranged for her education. A housekeeper was caring for her needs. All of this organized and paid for by a man I'd met only once. A man who'd said I was his because I'd pushed him out of the way of a bullet. A man who, according to his own words, had dangerous enemies who wouldn't hesitate to kill me and my daughter. After finishing most of the food, I carefully swung my legs over the side of the bed, testing my strength. I wore silk pajamas I'd definitely never seen before, the fabric sliding coolly against my skin as I moved. My injured shoulder was bandaged professionally, the pain present but manageable. Someone had bathed me while I was unconscious, a thought that made me uncomfortably vulnerable. I made my way to the ensuite bathroom, which was larger than my entire bedroom at home, all marble and glass with a shower that could have fit 3 people, and a soaking tub beneath a window overlooking manicured gardens. Again, I was struck by the surreal contrast to my normal life of cramped spaces, secondhand furniture, and constant financial anxiety. After using the facilities, I found a robe hanging on the bathroom door and slipped it on over the pajamas, needing the extra layer of coverage despite the warmth of the day. I felt exposed enough already, plucked from my life and placed in this gilded cage without my consent, even if it had supposedly been for my protection. The French doors leading to the balcony tempted me. Needing fresh air and a better sense of where exactly we were, I made my way across the room and pulled them open. The scent of roses and freshly cut grass greeted me as I stepped outside. The balcony overlooked extensive gardens that stretched toward a line of trees in the distance. Perfectly manicured lawns, flowering shrubs, stone pathways, and multiple fountains created a scene of almost unreal beauty. Beyond the gardens, I could see nothing but trees in all directions. No neighboring properties, no roads, nothing to indicate proximity to civilization. We were completely isolated. Movement below caught my eye. 2 men in dark suits walked a perimeter path along a high stone wall that appeared to surround the entire property. Even from a distance, I could see the telltale bulge of shoulder holsters beneath their jackets. Not gardeners, then. Security. Or guards, depending on how you looked at it. The enormity of my situation finally hit me fully. I was recovering from a gunshot wound in the secluded estate of a man I barely knew. A man with armed security and enemies willing to kill. A man who had effectively taken control of both my life and my daughter's with breathtaking efficiency, and without any real permission from me. I gripped the balcony railing, suddenly dizzy. You shouldn't be out of bed yet. The deep voice startled me so badly I nearly lost my balance. I turned to find Gabriel Castellano standing in the doorway to the bedroom, watching me with an unreadable expression. He'd ditched the formal suit for dark trousers and a crisp white shirt, with the sleeves rolled up to reveal muscular forearms. The more casual attire did nothing to diminish his aura of controlled power. "Lucia said you'd gone to the city," I managed, hating how breathless I sounded. "I returned when she informed me you were awake." He crossed to join me on the balcony, moving with that same predatory grace I'd noticed in the convenience store. "How are you feeling?" "Confused," I answered honestly. "Overwhelmed. A little angry, to be frank." His eyebrow arched slightly. "Angry? You kidnapped me and my daughter." A flash of genuine surprise crossed his face. "I arranged for your protection, without my consent, while I was unconscious." I turned back to the view, unable to maintain eye contact with his intense gaze. "That's kidnapping where I come from." Gabriel was silent for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, he chuckled. "You're either very brave or very foolish to speak to me like that, Eliza Reed." "Probably a bit of both," I admitted. "But being shot tends to put things in perspective." He moved to stand beside me at the railing, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I had two choices after you took that bullet. I could leave you in that public hospital, unprotected and exposed to the men who want me dead, or I could bring you somewhere safe, somewhere I could ensure no harm would come to you or your daughter." His voice hardened slightly. "It wasn't a difficult decision. Put like that, it was hard to maintain my indignation. Still, I couldn't quite let it go. You could have asked. You were unconscious. You could have waited until I wasn't. Every hour you remained in that hospital increased the risk." He turned to face me fully. "I don't leave things I value vulnerable, Eliza." There it was again, that possessive tone that should have offended me, but instead sent a complicated shiver down my spine. I changed the subject. "Emma seems to be adjusting well." His expression softened at the mention of my daughter. "She's a remarkable child. Intelligent, curious, resilient. She takes after her father that way," I said without thinking, then immediately regretted the words. Gabriel's eyes sharpened with interest. "Her father isn't mentioned in any of your records." The casual admission that he'd investigated my personal records should have alarmed me more than it did. "That's because he isn't in our lives," I said shortly, not wanting to discuss Daniel and his betrayal with this stranger. "He abandoned his child?" There was something dangerous in Gabriel's tone now. "It's complicated," I hedged, "and not relevant to our current situation." Gabriel studied me for a long moment, and I had the distinct impression he was filing away my reluctance to discuss Emma's father for future reference. "Perhaps not," he conceded, "though I find it difficult to imagine a man walking away from his own child. And from you." The unexpected compliment caught me off guard. "You don't know me well enough to make that judgment." "I know you better than you think," he countered, his voice dropping lower. "I know you work 2 jobs to support your daughter. I know you never miss a payment on your modest apartment, even when it means going without things for yourself. I know you volunteer at Emma's school despite your exhausting schedule." His eyes held mine. "I know you didn't hesitate to put yourself between a bullet and a complete stranger." Each statement felt like a physical touch, leaving me unsettled and exposed. "You've been investigating me." "Thoroughly," he confirmed without a hint of apology. "I make it a point to know everything about people who enter my life, especially under such unusual circumstances." "Is that what I've done? Entered your life?" I wrapped my arms around myself despite the warmth of the day, suddenly feeling the need for an additional barrier between us. Gabriel's smile was slow and deliberate. "You altered the course of my life the moment you pushed me aside in that store. Now our paths are irreversibly intertwined." The way he said it, like a foregone conclusion, an immutable fact, made my heart race. "Only until the danger passes," I reminded him, and myself. Then Emma and I returned to our normal lives. Something flashed in his eyes, too quick to identify. "Of course," he agreed smoothly, "though I suspect your definition of normal may shift after this experience." Before I could ask what he meant, a wave of dizziness hit me, making me sway slightly. Gabriel's hand shot out to steady me, his fingers wrapping firmly around my uninjured arm. The contact sent an electric current through me that had nothing to do with my physical weakness. "You've overexerted yourself," he said, frowning. "You should be resting." "I'm fine," I protested weakly, though in truth, my legs felt increasingly unsteady beneath me. Gabriel made a dismissive sound. Then before I could react, he swept me into his arms with insulting ease, careful of my injured shoulder. I gasped at the sudden proximity to him, at the strength in the arms that held me as if I weighed nothing. "Put me down," I demanded, though it came out embarrassingly breathy. "I can walk." "Clearly you can't," he replied dryly, carrying me back into the bedroom and placing me gently on the bed. "The doctor warned that you'd be weak for several days. You lost a considerable amount of blood." I sank into the pillows, hating how good it felt to be horizontal again. "Speaking of doctors, I'm guessing the one who's been treating me isn't exactly hospital staff. Dr. Reeves is my personal physician." Gabriel straightened, adjusting his shirt cuffs. "He's one of the best trauma surgeons on the East Coast. You're fortunate to have him overseeing your recovery. Of course, Gabriel Castellano would have a personal physician on call." I was beginning to suspect that businessman was a significant understatement of his occupation and influence. "When can I see Emma again?" I asked, changing the subject. "She'll be finished with her lessons soon. I'll have Lucia bring her up." He moved toward the door. "In the meantime, rest. We'll talk more over dinner." "Dinner?" He paused, glancing back. "Yes, I'd like you to join me, assuming you feel well enough. We have matters to discuss." The way he phrased it, not an invitation but a statement, rubbed against my already frayed nerves. "And if I don't feel well enough?" Gabriel's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then we'll postpone until tomorrow. But the conversation needs to happen, Eliza. There are things you need to understand about your situation." A chill ran through me at his tone. "What things?" "Later," he said firmly. "After you've rested and spent some time with your daughter." He left before I could press further, closing the door quietly behind him. I stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. The luxury surrounding me, the armed men patrolling the grounds, Gabriel's cryptic warnings and possessive attitude. None of it fit into the reality I knew. Who exactly had I saved in that convenience store? And what kind of world had I stumbled into? Emma's visit that afternoon was both a joy and a concerning revelation. My normally cautious daughter had apparently blossomed in this strange environment. She chattered excitedly about her tutor. "He knows everything, Mommy, even more than Ms. Wilson. The gardens, the library filled with books, and most concerning of all, about Mr. Gabriel. He got me new art supplies, the really good kind," she told me as we sat in a secluded corner of the gardens, me wrapped in a cashmere throw despite the pleasant temperature. "And books about stars because I told him I want to be an astronaut." I tried to keep my expression neutral. "That was nice of him." Emma nodded enthusiastically. "And he showed me how to play chess. He says I'm a natural strategist." She pronounced the word carefully, clearly repeating something she'd heard. "That means I'm good at planning ahead." The image of my 7-year-old daughter playing chess with the intimidating Gabriel Castellano was both bizarre and somehow unsettling. "You've spent a lot of time with Mr. Gabriel then." "Mostly at dinner," she said, plucking a daisy from the grass beside our bench. "He asks me lots of questions about school and my friends and what books I like." Her small brow furrowed. "He asked about Daddy, too." My blood ran cold. "What did he ask? What did you tell him?" Emma shrugged, her attention on the flower she was methodically deconstructing, petal by petal. "Just if I remembered him." I said not really. She glanced up at me. "Is that bad?" "No, sweetheart, that's fine." I smoothed her curls, trying to hide my unease. "It's just private, family business." "That's what Mr. Gabriel said, too." She brightened. "He said sometimes families are just a mommy and a little girl, and that's perfectly okay." Despite my misgivings about Gabriel, I felt a reluctant appreciation for how he'd handled that particular conversation with my daughter. "He's right about that." Emma twirled the denuded flower stem between her fingers. "Mommy, is Mr. Gabriel a prince?" The question was so unexpected I laughed. "What? No, sweetheart. Why would you think that?" "Because he lives in a castle and has guards and everyone does what he says right away." She looked around at the manicured gardens, the patrolling security. "And he rescued us, like in my storybooks." I tensed at her choice of words. "Emma, he didn't rescue us. We're just staying here for a little while because it's safe." "Safe from the bad men?" My heart sank. "What bad men, Emma?" Her expression turned serious. "The ones who hurt you. Mr. Gabriel said there are some bad men who might try to hurt us, but that no one can get past his guards, so we don't have to be scared." I made a mental note to have a very serious conversation with Gabriel Castellano about what was and wasn't appropriate to discuss with my child. "You don't need to worry about any of that, baby. Everything's going to be fine." Emma nodded, apparently satisfied with this assurance. "I know. Mr. Gabriel promised. He said he'd never let anyone hurt his girls." His girls. The possessive phrase, innocent from my daughter's lips, sent a jolt of alarm through me. What exactly was Gabriel telling Emma while I'd been unconscious and recovering? "Sweetheart," I said carefully, "we're not his girls. We're just guests here for a little while." Emma looked confused, but he said, "Emma," Lucia's voice called from further down the garden path. "Time to come in for your snack before afternoon lessons." My daughter jumped up, momentarily distracted from our conversation. "Coming." She turned back to me. "Will you be at dinner tonight, Mommy? Mr. Gabriel said maybe you would if you felt better." "I'll try, sweetheart." I forced a smile. "Now go on with Lucia. I'll see you soon." I watched her skip away, her earlier words echoing in my mind. His girls. The phrase lodged in my chest like a splinter, impossible to ignore. I'd gone from being a fiercely independent single mother, working 2 jobs to provide for my daughter, to being considered the possession of a man who seemed to command a small army of security personnel. A man who had moved us into his home, arranged for my medical care, my daughter's education, who was apparently forming a bond with Emma while I'd been incapacitated. A man who had enemies willing to kill to get to him. And tonight, apparently, I would be having dinner with him to discuss my situation. I pulled the cashmere throw tighter around my shoulders, suddenly chilled despite the afternoon sunshine. Whatever Gabriel Castellano wanted to tell me, I had a feeling it would change everything. Again. Lucia arrived at my room that evening with a selection of dresses laid across her arms. "Mr. Castellano thought you might want something suitable for dinner," she explained, carefully laying them out on the bed. I stared at the elegant garments. A simple black sheath dress, a deep blue wrap dress, and an emerald green silk that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. "These aren't mine." "No,